100,000 Christians in Chile gathered together to protest against the government wanting to legalize abortion in the cases of rape, in the cases of the unborn child having medical problems, or in the case, and this is the typical argument, in the case of a woman's life being in danger when she is pregnant or when she's giving birth. And it really is amazing. Look at this crowd. Look at this crowd. It's truly inspiring, and I cannot help but be admired at the size of this crowd, and I cannot help but be admired at the zeal. I'm admiring the zeal of these Christians gathered here together, and the huge numbers. It really is inspiring. And according to the report here, it says, in a massive rejection of the government's insistence on pushing through legislation to open the country to legal abortion, Chileans from all walks of life, social status, and religions amassed this past Saturday in downtown Santiago for a Celebrate Life rally. Evangelical Christians, along with Catholics and others, denounced the legislative push by President Michelle Bachelet and other elected officials, which calls for legalizing abortion of unborn children conceived in rape or who are determined to have a medical condition incompatible with life, or where there is danger to the mother's life. Many of those present at the rally are particularly concerned with members of the Christian Democratic Party who are supporting the pro-abortion legislation. Quote, "It is a mockery that members of a party that calls itself Christian dare to legalize the killing of the innocent," lamented Carmen Croxato of Chile's pro-life, pro-family network. Senator Carolina Goic, the president of the Christian Democratic Party and chair of the Senate Health Committee, is reportedly ready to push the legislation to the next step. Quote, "She needs to work to defeat this legislation now and not approve it moving forward to the full Senate," said Croxato. Pro-life leaders promised to make this the key determinant in the upcoming elections, declaring that any candidate or party who supports this legislation will not get their vote. Quote, "We do not want to follow the other countries of the world which have abandoned the protection of the weakest members of the human family, starting first with so-called only limited abortion and ending up with even more horrific consequences and all the damage that comes in the wake of abortion to society in general," according to Elizabeth Bunster of Chile es Vida. Now, it's really amazing, and what really amazes me is this. The government of Chile is not saying that we should legalize abortion generally, meaning abortion on demand for any reason that the pregnant woman wants. She wants to kill her child because she just feels like it. She wants to murder her child because she doesn't like the fact that her belly is big. She wants to murder her child because she's a slut and she made a mistake. That's not what they're saying. It's not like what they've done here in the U.S. What the government is saying is, listen, we want to legalize abortion just in the cases if the child, in the case of the child being conceived in rape, or in the case of the child having a medical condition that is incompatible with life, or in the case of a child, in the case of a woman being in medical danger, or her health is at risk when she's giving birth. So we should allow abortion for those conditions. And the Christians of Chile are saying, no, no. In other words, they are becoming hair-splitting. They are splitting hairs on abortion. And you know what? That is the correct approach. You see, in the West, people have capitulated so much to these little conditions that these devil worshippers in government do. They say, well, abortion is a terrible, horrible thing. And I'm a Christian and I am pro-life, but I do not want to use my government office to impose my religious beliefs on the public. This is what the Democrats argue all the time. In fact, you have Joe Biden, who says he's Catholic, admit that he believes that life begins at conception. He knows it's murder. He knows abortion is the murder of a human life, yet he doesn't care. Why? Because he's evil. And he will say, well, I don't want to use my government position, my office, my government office, as a means to impose my beliefs. This is what they all say. So what they will say, and the way that they will take incremental steps to eventually legalize abortion on demand is abortion should be legal only in the cases of rape, or only in the case of the mother being in danger. That's what they say. And a lot of people who claim to be Christian, or people who claim to be of a conservative persuasion, will say, well, that seems fair. And they don't realize, or I think I should say, they don't want to realize, that this is simply incrementalism. This is simply a way to desensitize you to abortion, and it's also a form of societal conditioning in which they condition people to accept abortion step by step. So it's like a drug. You start out with marijuana, then you go to cocaine, and pretty soon you're on methamphetamine, and you look like you're in an episode of the Night of the Undead or something like that. Like you're in a zombie movie. And the Christians in Chile understand this. They understand this methodical method, this methodical strategy, this calculative means to propaganda, this calculative means to desensitizing the entire nation to accepting abortion. It's very evil, it's very demonic, but it goes back to what St. Paul says. A little leaven leaveneth up the whole batch. A little bit of deception will destroy an entire society. And all this evil because people don't understand Christ. All this evil because people don't want to understand Christ. They don't want to know Christ. And if societies understood who Christ is, they wouldn't have this desire to do such evil in society, this desire to deceive people into accepting murder, this desire to have a nation fund, tolerate, and enable the mass murder of unborn children. It's so evil. And they really are the weakest in society. They are the most defenseless people in society. And yet they want to destroy that. They want to kill the most defenseless people. And it's amazing. If you go to Latin America, if you work with Latin American people, you will notice that a lot of them are sympathetic towards socialism and indigenous religions. And I did a video about this yesterday. I did a video on a nun in Bolivia who was raped. And Bolivia, being a very liberal country, they have this type of violence. And Chile, I think Chile is more Catholic. My father has been there. He did some work over there years ago. And he even told me himself, it's a very Christian, very Catholic society. It's a nation that has maintained the Spanish culture that was infused into that land by the Spanish conquistadores and by the Catholic Church. So it still has a lot of beautiful remnants, a lot of beautiful aspects of Catholic culture that are being maintained in the society. And they are very sympathetic towards socialism, and they love to talk about the human family. We are all members of humanity. We are all members of the humanity and el pueblo unido and all that bullcrap talk they love to use. And it's amazing. They love to brag about how they are members of the human family, how they are fighting for humanity. Go read the writings of Che Guevara. You will see this type of talk for humanity and the unity of humanity and all this crap. Yet they are for killing the most weak, the most defenseless people in the human family. It's just amazing to me. Like, we're for the human family, we're for humanity, we're for the cause of humanity, we're against imperialism, we are for socialism, what humanity needs is socialism. Okay, what do you think about defending the most defenseless people in the human family, the unborn? Well, that's for the woman's choice, and all of a sudden the woman has a right to murder this defenseless member of humanity, and yet they're going on just touting this idea that they are for defending people and for defending human beings. It's just absolute crap. And what's amazing is how they use the argument of, well, if the child is conceived in rape. Here's the thing, and this at this point I'm not just talking about Chile. This is in America. This is in any country, to be honest with you. It's everywhere, where you have these schmucks who come out and say, well, if the child is conceived in rape, then that child, it's just very difficult for that child to be in the care of a woman who didn't want the child in the first place. And it's like, well, hold on a second. It's a separate human being. The unborn child conceived in rape is still a child. It's not the child's fault that he or she was conceived in rape. It's not. And so they're putting it, instead of putting the fault on the rapist, they put the fault on the child. And you will say, well, that's not true. Well, the rapist receives justice, and we have courts that prosecute rapists, but you don't kill rapists. And that's one thing that I have noticed a lot about much of Western society. I mean, be it in the U.S. or be it in Great Britain, they don't kill rapists. They don't kill rapists. And even in some Islamic societies, they will kill child molesters, pedophiles, and rapists, even though they have a lot of that in their own societies. I think it's a good thing that we go back to executing these perverts. We don't kill rapists anymore. And there are so many rapists and child molesters and pedophiles in prison. And there's so many of them, and they're given such leeway and such freedom because they don't kill them, that prison guards are frustrated by this. In fact, they're so frustrated by this that they will actually go to prisoners and say, hey, room such and such, just letting you know. And the criminals will go into that room and they'll bash the pedophile's brains out. But we don't kill them. And people say, well, what if the child is conceived in rape? Well, why do we have rapists in society? Because you throw them in prison and then you let them go back into society where they're going to go and do the same crap that got them into prison the first time. It's sickening. So we believe in killing the child, but not in killing the rapist. See, and this is how you know that these people are full of crap. They come out and they say, well, what if the child is conceived in rape? It's like, well, how come we don't kill rapists? Because if anyone deserves death, it's not the unborn child who is defenseless, who is a separate individual. It's the rapist that should be killed. But yet you want to let the rapist go and put the rapist in prison for a few years and let him go. I've heard of child molesters being thrown in prison for 6 years for ridiculously short amounts of time. And instead of pushing for the killing of rapists and the killing of pedophiles, it's sickening. They want to kill an unborn child. And I made a video about 4 faggots who raped 2 teenagers in a bus. And I said, these fags deserve death. And I had schmucks like Michael Brown come after me. And I had other schmucks come after me and say, I'm not a Christian and all this. To hell with you. You're all pieces of garbage. But I don't want to just swerve away from the subject here. The subject is, let's admire the zeal of these Christians in Chile. Let's support these Christians in Chile because it's absolutely righteous what they're doing. And let's push for legislation, not for abortion. Let's push for legislation for rapists to be put to death. And that is something that will fix society. It's amazing they say that abortion is going to help fix society. No, killing rapists, pedophiles, and faggot perverts will help society. It will help clean up society. Guarantee it. This is Theodore Shoebat. Hope you guys have enjoyed this message. Hope you guys have learned something from this message. You just heard some theology. God bless, and God be with us.